Okay, so today we're tackling a really tough but incredibly important topic. And I want to be clear right from the start. The goal here isn't to scare anyone. It's about empowering you, whether you're a parent, a teacher, any adult really, with the knowledge you need to see a dangerous pattern and protect the kids in your life. Understanding how this works, that's the absolute first and most critical step.
So, here's how we're going to walk through this. We'll start with what grooming actually is. Then we'll dive deep into the 7-stage process, and we'll finish up with what I think is the most important part, our responsibility as adults.
All right, first things first. To really understand something, you have to be able to define it. So let's get right to that fundamental question. What exactly is grooming?
The key word here, the one I really want you to focus on, is preparation. See, grooming isn't the abuse itself. It's the deliberate, really manipulative process an abuser uses to pave the way for it. It's all the calculated groundwork they lay to make the abuse even possible in the first place.
And this is what's so chilling, right? It shows you that this is a strategy. It's not random. A groomer has a very clear set of goals. They're trying to gain a child's trust, create opportunities to be alone, and, maybe most importantly, completely break down that child's natural defenses. The whole point is to make them compliant and make it almost impossible to get caught.
So, how does the predator actually pull this off? Well, like I said, it's not random. It follows a really calculated 7-stage pattern. And honestly, understanding this pattern is the key. It's how we can learn to spot it early.
Okay, here's the roadmap. Access, targeting, gaining trust, filling a need, isolation, desensitization, and it all ends with control. Now look, sometimes the order might shift a little, but this is the classic playbook. This is the path they usually take, and we're going to go through it piece by piece.
All right, let's dive into the first 4 stages. You could think of this as them building the foundation. And this is the really tricky part, because a lot of what they do here can look completely harmless. And that's exactly what makes it so dangerous.
So, it all starts with access and targeting. First, the abuser has to get near kids, right? They intentionally put themselves in places where children are. But then, and this is key, they don't just pick a child at random. They're scanning. They're actively looking for a kid who seems vulnerable, or maybe, and this is awful, a kid they think nobody would believe if they ever spoke up.
Okay, next up is the absolute cornerstone of this whole process, gaining trust. The perpetrator basically creates a whole new personality. They become that cool, fun adult who gets them, a totally safe person. But it's a mask, right? And it's a mask designed to fool everyone, not just the child, but all the other adults in their life too.
And how do they do it? Well, they have a whole toolkit. They'll learn all about the child's interests, shower them with gifts and attention, and a big one is creating a bond through so-called shared secrets. From the child's point of view, this feels like a really special, almost magical relationship.
But let's talk about this sharing secrets thing, because it's so manipulative. We're not talking about a fun, harmless secret. A classic move is to let a child do something they know their parents have forbidden. Why? Because now the groomer has leverage. It's a secret that can be used like a weapon later on to keep the child quiet.
And that brings us to stage 4, filling a need. Groomers they're like experts at finding the empty spaces in a child's life. Is the child lonely? Do they need affection? Do they want things their parents can't afford? Whatever it is, the groomer provides it. And by doing that, they create this incredibly powerful dependency. The child literally starts to feel like they need this person.
And look at this. This just lays the deception bare. You've got 2 totally different realities happening at the same time. The child thinks, I have a special friend who really gets me. But the groomer's thinking, I'm gaining trust, I'm exploiting a weakness, I'm building leverage for later. It's a complete betrayal.
Okay, so now we're moving into the next phase. The foundation of trust and dependency has been laid. And from here, things escalate. The funnel starts to narrow, and the groomer's actions become way more obvious, way more dangerous.
Stage 5 is all about isolation. The groomer starts making up excuses, creating situations where it's just them and the child. And this is a 2-for-1 deal for them. First, it gets the child away from any protective adults. And second, it makes that special bond feel even more intense and secret.
Then comes stage 6, desensitization. This is where they slowly, methodically start to sexualize the relationship. Think of it like turning up the heat so slowly you don't notice it's boiling. They test boundaries. Maybe they start talking about sex or show the child something they shouldn't see. And then they begin to escalate the physical touch, but so gradually that it's just confusing for the child.
And you can see just how subtle this can be. It starts with stuff that looks totally innocent on the surface, right? Hugs, wrestling, tickling games. But each one is a test. Each one is designed to normalize physical contact and blur the lines, until eventually sexual touch doesn't feel like this shocking violation. It just feels like the next thing that happens.
And this leads to the final stage, control. At this point, the abuse is happening, and the groomer's entire focus changes. It's no longer about building up to something, it's about maintaining it, and above all, making sure the child stays silent. And their weapons for this are secrecy, blame, and threats.
And this right here, this is one of the most twisted and effective tools in their arsenal. They completely flip the script. They convince the child, if you tell anyone, you're the one who's going to be in trouble. It's this masterful evil move that shifts all the blame, all the fear, right onto the child's shoulders. It traps them.
Okay, so we've just walked through this absolutely horrifying process, and now we get to what is, without a doubt, the most important part of this whole thing. What does this mean for us, for the adults? Why is knowing all this so critical?
I mean, let's just ask the question directly. Why is it so vitally important for every single one of us, parents, teachers, coaches, aunts, uncles, to learn these signs? The answer is, it's incredibly simple, but it's everything. Because we can't expect kids to stop it themselves. It's just not fair. By the time a child has been manipulated through these stages, they're in too deep. The psychological damage is done, and it's pretty much impossible for them to fight back or stop what's happening.
So that means the responsibility, it falls squarely on our shoulders. Is our job to recognize the pattern, especially in those early stages we talked about. The gifts, the special secrets, the push for isolation. We have to be the ones to step in. And look, your child might not get it. They might get really angry at you for taking away their special friend, and you have to be okay with that. Their safety is so much more important than their anger. So I want to leave you with this question to carry with you. We've laid out the predator's playbook step by step. We've shown you the pattern. So now that you know what to look for, what are you going to watch for to keep the kids in your life safe?